To be here today, and I really thank you all for coming out. And I'm going to just share with you a little story about how this is all, the origins of this and how it all started. I came to the museum in 2018 and there was a Luton Life banner, and I had a look at it. It was upstairs and it listed the multicultural communities of Luton, and I was a bit touched. I was a bit upset because the African Caribbean was missing. So we had a word with Mary, we had a word with the museum, and we said, we came over, you know, and we built, and I felt really, really hurt because I said my mum passed away in 2000, just 2 years ago, and I said, you know, they came over, 65 years of marriage, my mum and my dad, and they had their best twilight years here in Luton, and they raised their family, and I've got a granddaughter now, and I felt, looking at that display, that when my granddaughter Amelia comes to the museum and look, she doesn't see any trace of us. She doesn't see any trace of my mum. She won't see any of the contribution that so many, all of you here today, have really given to Luton, and it really hurt me. But I'm thankful to say the story didn't stay there. It changed around, and we've worked with a wonderful team who just was so, you know, they brought it out the bag and they said, yes, let's open it up. Originally, before the COVID-19 restrictions, we had a few tables that we were going to do some wedding photos and some displays. And then after COVID lifted and we were able to come back in, they said, come and let me show you the space that we're going to give you. And they said, you've got the morning room, you've got the library, you've got the and upstairs. We're like, how are we going to fill this space? So I'm really delighted, and we reached out to the community, and Mother McPherson and Angela, thank you so much for opening up your tributes, your family stories, and bring. When I looked at the pictures on the wall, I wanted to cry because, you know, I can't even put it into words, but thank you for your life, and thank you for sharing it with us at the museum today. Thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Eibel, Mr. and Mrs. Eibel, to Mr. and Mrs. Knight. Thank you to Nine Red, Deborah. Thank you so much for all the displays that you've brought in. They've really touched our heart, and we're going to open it up so that more people's stories can be shared today. So thank you for joining in the launch and the programme of events, and I'll hand over back to Hannah. Thank you. Because of the COVID restrictions, they can only have 30 people a day. So yeah, but we're going to promote it now.
She doesn't want me around. Something to hide. I think she wants a clown, someone my foolish bride.
But first, they promised to pay us properly, but how much longer do we have to wait? Hundreds of people who lost their jobs, their homes and their access to healthcare as part of the Windrush scandal say the government is being too slow to compensate them for what happened. It's 73 years ago today that the Empire Windrush sailed into Essex carrying people from the Caribbean. They were invited to settle here, but a mix-up with their paperwork later left many facing financial ruin and deportation. Nicola Haisler reports.
Thank you everybody for coming out today for National Windrush Day.
Descendants of the Windrush generation gathered in towns across the UK today to honour the contribution that 500,000 people from the Caribbean made to this country after the Second World War.
It's the recognition of what our community did for the UK and what we continue to do. There was lots of industries that were propped up by our grandparents and great-grandparents and continuous, like the NHS, the railways, the factories. So it's just recognising what we did and often we get forgotten about.
It's also a day to reflect on the wrongs the community has suffered when they were forced to prove that they had the right to stay here.
They left with so much hope of a better tomorrow, being told that they were British. They all, if you ask anyone of that generation, they were told that they were British and they never understood how could a mother who loved their children, the mother country, treat them like dirt. They just didn't understand it.
In Jamaica, they couldn't find work. Discouraged but full of hope, they sailed for Britain. Citizens of the British Empire coming to the mother country with good intent.
Their contribution to Luton is honoured in a new display at Wardown Museum of possessions they brought with them.
The Windrush generation were born British subjects. But decades after they arrived in the UK, many of them were arrested, deported, denied medical care, pensions and housing that they were entitled to. Some lost jobs and homes because they were wrongly classified as illegal immigrants.
In Northampton too, a flag was raised to commemorate them.
Some are not here anymore, so to see the flag flying, recognising that we are standing on their shoulders, very gently, you know.
In 2018, the Home Office admitted it had treated the Windrush generation unfairly and announced a compensation scheme. But the claim process is complex and the claimants are elderly, like Jackie's mum, who died in January.
She knows that her descendants and her generation descendants are fighting with every sinew in our bodies to make sure that they are not forgotten. And that's the thing that gives me the strength to keep doing what I do.
Nicola Haisler, BBC Look East, Luton.
Now to what some are calling Freedom Day. It's the day
that her descendants and her generation descendants are fighting with every sinew in our bodies to make sure that they are not forgotten. And that's the thing that gives me the strength to keep doing what I do.
Nicola Haisler, BBC Look East, Luton.